Greetings. My name is Gerard Leverson. I'm also known as Convoy Satori, certified holistic counselor, certified mindfulness meditation and Eastern Tibetan breathwork coach, and certified heart math professional. Well, I hope everyone has enjoyed the past holiday because, the 4th of July is a central holiday for being an American. But did you know that on the 4th of July, 1776, when independence was declared, we were actually far away from being an independent country. And quite frankly, we were getting our asses kicked in the Revolutionary War. Sort of like how we're getting our ass kicked today. For example, all fair-toned people are white people, and all white people are privileged, and ultimately are racist for being privileged in a society that it has a rich history and systematic racism. And with that, all light brown to dark brown people are black people, and black people are victims of slavery and systematic racism to the extent that if you're a lighter toned black person, your slave-ridden ancestor was probably raped, making you a light-skinned rape baby. Now, despite all that, socially, we like to try to live white lifestyles and try to be cool like blacks. But ultimately, wasn't there more races than just black and white? And when you think about it, who the hell is even calling this race game anyway? If we keep it American, we'll be led to the Census Bureau. But when we dive a little bit more into it, we see that the Census Bureau is just an errand boy for the Office of Management and Budget, also known as the OMB. Now, the OMB sets the demographical standards, and the Census Bureau collects data on us all according to those standards. Now, since the first census in 1790, no census questionnaire has been the same. Blacks have gone from slaves and freedmen and colored, and then also Negro, and now we have black African Americans. Asians were Orientals, Mexicans became Hispanics, and now Hispanic Latinos. And although this is the indigenous land of Turtle Island, Indians weren't counted until 1850, and now known as Native Americans. And whites, well, they've always just been whites. Now, unfortunately, demographically, socioeconomically, and culturally, non-Hispanic, brown, and peach peoples are being blackwashed, whitewashed, barreled, and pigeonholed into a political, social constructed sense of representation, and that being whites or blacks. While the past 5 years of racial injustice have catapulted the historically strained intra-race tensions and prejudice ideals onto an international stage, now we have political fights over CRT, also known as critical race theory. But one concept that critical race theory presented that is not being discussed is intragroup biases. And these are also maturing to contribute to the seemingly unstable social political infrastructure that we have today. The Pew Research Center provides that between 1980 and 2016, 3.4 million Africans immigrated into the U.S., but between the year 2000 and 2016 alone, approximately 1.1 million Africans were immigrated into the Black African American demographic. So that means that in the span of 6 years, that's more African immigration than the approximated 450,000 that the transatlantic slave trade produced over a span of 350 years. Let that sink in. So with that, from the year 2010 to 2019, the white demographic has seen a decline in their represented population at unprecedented rates. And it's stated that this decline is attributed to the white demographic increasing in age while decreasing their birth rates and increasing their death rates. Now, My opinion, a far more interesting statistical indication is provided by looking at two other factors, being the rapid decrease in immigration and the sudden desire for previously classified whites willing to reclassify other than white in the recent census polls. Now, and this includes, but is not limited to, MENA. So what is MENA, may you ask? Well, in 2013, the Arab American Institute sent a letter to the Census Bureau and OMB requesting distinct category on the social, racial, ethnic questionnaire for people of Middle Eastern or Northern African origin, MENA. The letter was signed by 26 different organizations and scholars, and when the Bureau tested potential categories, including MENA, it actually found that when people of Middle Eastern or Northern African descent saw the box for MENA, they would check it. But when the box wasn't there, they would actually select white. So wait a second. How many were aware of that? That the current classification of white per the OMB and the Census Bureau includes Middle Easterners and Northern Africans. It's crazy, right? And you know, the OMB never went forward with MENA. That's why you didn't see it on the 2020 census. Although the Census Bureau's research indicated and suggested the implementation, the OMB's excuse for not putting it on the census was, and I quote, "At the conclusion of the reviewed agreement, we could not come to a public understanding with the stakeholders on the intent of the measurement concept, i.e., whether the category should be based on language, geography, etc., nor accordingly a definition for this category." But for some reason, it's still crystal clear to them how Middle Easterners and Northern Africans can be deemed as whites when they pay taxes in America. So what I'm getting at is, as an American republic, have we outgrown the rusted binary citizen classifications that were at most time polarized? And would it be more progressive for Americans to abandon white and black classifications for more culturally diverse and accurate representation, and collectively advocate federal and state governments to adopt more ethnically specific classifications that reflect accurate representation of the diversity of U.S. citizens? Now, there are two kinds of national identity representations that have been identified in political sciences and sociology, namely ethnic and civic. Now, an ethnic nationalism defines the nation in terms of some supposed share of ancestral, linguistic, or cultural distinctiveness. And civic nationalism, on the other hand, defines nationality in more voluntaristic terms, using criteria like citizenship as well as institutional commitments and participation. So, if we go to the Census Bureau's website and check out the About Race section, it states that the racial categories included in the census questionnaire generally reflect a social definition of race recognized in the country, and it is not an attempt to define race by any means of biological or genetic grounds. America has inherently been known as the melting pot, but yet over 300 years, we have established a conflicting history that has failed to live up to the promising nickname. And since the first census in America, America has made inconsistent attempts to demographically classify citizens based on race. Yet, consistent horrors of racist hate crimes reverberate throughout the nation's existence. And racism can be defined as an espousal of a political systematic doctrine of advantage based on a citizen's classification of race. Now, a reasonable proposition that I do suggest be taken is that socially constructed race-based civic classifications be modified to represent diverse cultures defined by regional and ethnic traditional, historic ancestry, and done so in a unified fashion. And in regard to race, what I'm suggesting is a final and complete omittance of its usage and dissolve its contextual content into a national embrace of ethnic diversity. An example of such representation would be to embrace the initial rhetorical philosophy of the U.S. being a unified home of the world, completely disintegrate the ideas and expressions of race on all contextual usages, and replace the contextual usage of race with ethnicity, and add American to every classification to emulate a national identification. Now, these modifications are not as convoluted as it would appears that there's only two classifications that integrate a citizen's identity with a race, and that is to be white or to be black. So, let this video serve as an invite to a public Facebook group that has been created where we can come together as a unified community, but I'm also urging you to take and participate in the demographic survey that is pinned to the group, and it's also located in the announcements. And this survey, it offers an ethnic representation, and therefore we can demonstrate as a community that we're done with race in America, washing out our essence on an international stage. At the end of the day, this is America, the third largest country on the planet, the demographic republic of the land of the free, the land of the ethnicities, the ethnic America united. So please check out the link inside the bio where I can try to send you straight to the group where we have the survey. But also, I just want to thank you for stopping by and listening. Balance, love, life, above all.